which made Benjamin growl at him. The officer ignored the warning growls and moved to put handcuffs on me. Seeing the officer manhandling me, Benjamin lunged for his leg and bit him hard around his calf, which made the officer kick him hard with his other leg. Poor Benjamin went flying through the air and landed hard against a shelf and then lay there still. I tried to protest and demand that I be allowed to check on Benjamin to make sure he was okay. But the officer refused and put me in handcuffs and dragged me out of the store and threw me in the back of his police cruiser. He then brought me down to the police station where I was forced to wait in the lobby while he filed the paperwork for my arrest. He claimed I was making a public disturbance and that I had assaulted him by commanding my dog to attack him, which was a complete lie, but so far no one was listening to me. Hi there, my name is Gracie, and I encountered one of the worst human beings you could ever imagine recently. Let me start off by saying that I have a vision impairment. I can still see, but I am legally blind and I need the help of a service dog in order to navigate through the world, and it can be very challenging sometimes. Both because the world isn't really designed for people like me, but also because sometimes I encounter people that don't think my service dog should be allowed in certain places. So I was born with a degenerative eye condition that makes it so that while I can see shades of colors and light, my range of vision is so poor that I qualified for a service dog, and getting Benjamin was honestly a game changer for me. He has been so incredibly helpful and has changed my life in so many amazing ways. Not only does he provide some companionship, but without him, I couldn't navigate around the city. It was on one such outing that I had the misfortune of encountering a police officer that made it his mission to harass me. I was at a local clothing store looking for a new jacket when the clerk came over and demanded to know why I had a dog in his store.
Excuse me, miss, but there are no pets allowed in the store. Could you please tie your dog up outside?
Oh? Do you mean Benjamin? He's a service animal. I can assure you that I'm allowed to have him in here without him. I wouldn't be able to move around.
Miss, I wasn't born yesterday. You don't need that dog, and the store policy is that no animals be allowed in the store. I'm sorry, but you'll have to take him outside.
Sir, I don't mean to be rude, but he is legally allowed to be here. I need his help.
What seems to be the problem here? This woman brought a dog into the store and refuses to remove it, even though it is against store policy.
And I'm trying to tell him that it's a service animal. I have a legal right to bring him everywhere I go.
Oh, is that a fact? And what condition do you have that allows you to have a service dog?
I'm legally blind, sir. Benjamin is my seeing eye dog.
Yeah, I don't buy it. You were looking at those jackets. If you were actually blind, then you couldn't see them.
Yes, I have some very limited vision, but not enough to navigate the world.
Nope, I don't believe you. Listen, you have two options. Either tie the dog up outside or I can just arrest you for disturbing the public. What's it going to be?
I was shocked at how callous both of them were being, but only a little. It wasn't the first time that I had encountered people like them. I tried to show the officer the paperwork that proved what I was saying, but he refused to look at it, and so I resigned to just leave instead. Fine, I'll leave, but this is discrimination.
Yeah, right. Listen, lady, I'll keep my eye on you and you better not try to pull this stunt again, or I'll haul you down to the station.
It was absurd, but I didn't want any problems, so I left. Annoyed and frustrated, I went home and ordered a jacket from an online store. I prefer to shop local and support small businesses, but I didn't want to risk having another encounter. After that, I went about my day, tidying up my house when it grew close to dinner time. Feeling hungry, I went to the fridge to decide what I would make, and saw that I was out of a few ingredients I would need to make my favorite meal. Sighing heavily, I got ready to head out and down to the grocery store. After a few minutes of walking up and down the aisles, though, I had my second encounter with the same officer as from before.
I thought I warned you about bringing that animal into stores. I told you there would be consequences if you did.
And I tried to show you the paperwork that said that I had the legal right to bring Benjamin with me wherever I go. I'm blind and I need my service animal. If you would just look at the paperwork, then you would believe me.
I've heard this nonsense before, and I'm not buying it. You have exactly 2 seconds to leave this store right away, or I'm putting that dog in the pound and you in handcuffs.
Just look at the paperwork. It will clear all this up. Why are you being so dismissive?
Last warning.
When it was clear that I wasn't backing down, the officer made a move towards me in a rather aggressive manner, which made Benjamin growl at him. The officer ignored the warning growls and moved to put handcuffs on me. Seeing the officer manhandling me, Benjamin lunged for his leg and bit him hard around his calf, which made the officer kick him hard with his other leg. Poor Benjamin went flying through the air and landed hard against a shelf and then lay there still. I tried to protest and demand that I be allowed to check on Benjamin to make sure he was okay, but the officer refused and put me in handcuffs and dragged me out of the store and threw me in the back of his police cruiser. He then brought me down to the police station where I was forced to wait in the lobby while he filed the paperwork for my arrest. He claimed I was making a public disturbance and that I had assaulted him by commanding my dog to attack him, which was a complete lie, but so far no one was listening to me, until one officer came over and sat down next to me.
Hello there. So Dan claims that you attacked him? Can you give me your side of the story?
Yes. I have a seeing eye dog, and Officer Dan refused to look at the paperwork that I have to prove that Benjamin, my dog, is a service animal, and therefore allowed to be wherever I am. He threatened me, and Benjamin did bite him, but only because he was trying to protect me. Can you please tell me what happened to my dog? What's going on here?
From what I hear, your dog went to the pound. I'll look into what their condition is, though. Can I see the paperwork?
Since my hands were still in handcuffs, I told her where I kept the paperwork in my purse. I saw her pull it out and begin to inspect it when I heard loudly sigh in frustration.
I knew it. This isn't the first time that Dan has messed up like this. I swear that man has only 2 brain cells in that entire head of his.
Does that mean you believe me?
Yes, I do. Here, let me take you out of those handcuffs. I do ask that you wait here, though, while I go and sort all of this out.
She then took the handcuffs off and then went back to speak with the other officers. I couldn't see what was going on, but I heard a lot of shouting and a few people calling Officer Dan some not very flattering names. After several minutes, Officer Emily returned and sat down next to me again.
Okay, the good news is that Benjamin is shaken up from what happened, but he is okay, and they are bringing him here. Once they do, I'll have an officer drive you home.
What about the charges against me?
They have all been dropped and Dan is facing suspension and more than likely he will be fired. I'm very sorry for the inconvenience that he caused.
When Benjamin arrived, we were both very relieved to be reunited with one another, and just as Officer Emily stated, a different officer drove us home. The next day, though, I contacted a lawyer and told them about what had happened. I knew that I had a case to sue Officer Dan and I was going to take it. After all, he had assaulted me and Benjamin, and I wasn't going to just let him get away with it. I knew that he was probably going to get fired, but that wasn't enough. As my lawyer prepared my case, he contacted the local news station and they interviewed me and allowed me to tell my story. I knew that it would help my case as it would expose what the cop did to me and get the public on my side, but it also gave me an opportunity to make people aware of the kind of discrimination that people like myself face all the time. Officer Dan ended up facing a lot of public backlash from the case, and rather than just be suspended, the police department were forced to fire him in order to save face with the public. People would curse him, and even some people would throw things at him when he would go out in public. He soon became a shut-in and only left his house when he was forced to go to court. Thankfully, my lawyer found several people that were in the grocery store the day that I was detained, and they all testified that I had tried to show Officer Dan my paperwork, and that he chose to ignore it and act aggressively instead. Between their testimony and the news story, the court was completely in favor of me, and they awarded me over $100,000. The amount was more than I could ever hope for, and since he had been fired from the police, that meant that Dan was on the hook for the entire amount. To be honest, though, for me, it was never about the money, and while I did keep some of it to help make my life easier, I donated most of it to the charity that had trained Benjamin. I felt that it wasn't just a win for myself, but for all people like me, and I wanted to help spread the good fortune to others. After all, Benjamin has helped make my life amazing, and I would love for others to have that same joy. As for Officer Dan, someone even posted his pictures online as an adult star looking for a job, and with that his wife and family cut him off. Well, hopefully he learned his lesson, and if not, then hopefully he never finds himself in a position of power ever again. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel.